take this radio out. Got these tools, Crutchfield. I heard it click and I pulled outward. Just began to remove. Pretty sweet. Okay, right here I've got the Kenwood radio deck, which is the DNR1007XR, which is a 10-inch floating screen. And we have begun to pull the factory radio out, but I have not disconnected it using these brackets provided by Crutchfield. And so we've got the Kenwood here with the manual, but we have also purchased the Maestro RR replacement interface, so we can use the vehicle steering wheel controls and all the functions that integrate with the radio and the vehicle and dash into this new deck. So before we ever pull out the existing radio, what we're going to do is we also ordered this harness from Crutchfield that was pre-crimped, pre-made, etc., to attach to the radio to the vehicle. But we're going to fit this in between this harness, which is going to be plugged into the new deck, and the vehicle itself. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. And if you're wondering, the Kenwood deck normally would come with this cable and ends ready for you to connect to whatever stereo you are working on. But when you buy this harness, which is specific to your vehicle, Crutchfield will go ahead and pre-crimp all of these for you. So to me, that's worth the extra 25 bucks, just because I know they've done correctly, the correct wires to the correct wires, and I should be all set. Okay, here's the Mopar radio. There are really one main wiring harness and 3 other cables in this order. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those in preparation for the installation of the new radio. Okay, on this pre-made harness, this will go into the van stock harness. This is connecting to the new deck. So this is van side, this is new deck side. In the van side, there is a backup camera and a cargo camera. That's part of the van wiring harness. I have, for my purposes, plugged the backup camera into the deck rear view camera, and I have done the van cargo camera into the new deck third view camera. There are also video in and out and a front view camera, which I don't presently have, and that's the antenna. So we'll go from there. Related to the radio antenna, I also purchased this conversion vehicle antenna adapter cable. It's a 40 EU10, and it basically will plug this end into the deck, and this end will go into the front antenna harness built into the car or the vehicle. Now, what you'll also notice is on this pre-made harness from Crutchfield, there is the main harness that goes into the vehicle there, but you also have all of these. And if you'll notice, there is a label that reads, this is the HRN-RRCH3 version already done and connected for you. So this circumvents me using all of these and trying to install all of that, which is part of the Maestro control unit. So Crutchfield has basically sold me a harness that already includes this instead of dealing with all of this. So you'll see, using this pre-made harness, I have connected all 4 areas of the Maestro. And so let's start here. The green cable goes into the green box connector. Pretty easy to figure out. This yellow, red, black, that displaces this cable that comes with the Maestro. The major harness here, which is the widest with multiple wires, that replaces this guy. And it's really almost kind of dummy proof because all of the connectors, they've made this wisely. Each connector is a different size and shape and or color. So I don't see that you can possibly put the wrong connector into the wrong male and female coupling together. You can't get it wrong. And so effectively, that's what we've got so far. Okay, and in the Maestro instructions, step 2 reads to unplug the female white 2-pin connector and plug it to the male red connector of your CH3T harness. The male white 2-pin connector will remain disconnected. So when I'm looking at the harness here, it appears to me that that is the red 2-pin connector, and here is the current white 2-pin connector. So I'm going to disconnect this and connect this one to that one. Okay, so I did that. You'll see I disconnected the white 2-pin and connected the red 2-pin to the white. Then the instructions read, unplug the black 2-pin connector of your harness. The female black 2-pin connector will remain disconnected. So in here I have a black 2-pin connector here. I'm going to disconnect that and essentially leave it disconnected. So I will leave that just like that. Okay, so step 3 of the Maestro instructions reads, plug the black 2-pin connector of your CH3T harness into the OBD2 connector. Plug the OBD2 connector into the OBD2 of the vehicle. All right, so that tells me then I disconnected this from the harness, but I am now going to need to take this, which came with the harness material, harness pack. This came with the harness pack related to the radio, not the Maestro, because this is what came with Maestro. So I'm going to take this 2-pin connector now and plug it into here, and then plug this into the OBD2 in the vehicle. That said, I'm going to have to plug this in and then fish this wire up, I suppose, through the dash to get it here. So I'm not going to plug it in yet. I'll do that last when I insert the radio into the dashboard, because I need to stick this in and then run it through. So I will do that now. Okay, I have plugged the OBD2 wire harness into the OBD2 connector. It's basically right there. And I've started to fish this line up, but now I've got to get the line up through the dash up to here. So what I'm going to do is, just to make my life a little easier so I can drop some light down in there and see, you have this panel here. It's like a document panel or something they call it. It's really only connected by 2 screws, one there and one there. So I'm gonna remove this just to drop some light down in there so I can see. Make things a little easier for myself. And by the way, the screws in here are not Phillips. They are a Torx screw. So I believe that is a T20 or T25. So we're going to use our kit here and start with a 25, which for me is the one on the far end. And let's find out here. Correct. So that is a T25 Torx head screw. So you want to do that when you start to pull this out. And whatever you do, do not drop those screws, because if they go down there, you probably never find them again. And they'll rattle around, and I don't know where they'll find their way, which would not be good. So I'm going to put the camera down and use 2 hands to do this. Okay, so I got those 2 screws out, and sure enough, there we go. Comes right out. Really, I guess this is meant to be able to put a pad and it stays there, but I'd rather have a console section personally, but it is what it is. Okay, so now that I've got that out, the goal is to get this fished up from there into here. And when I go down and look in this, I don't know how well you can see that, but I can see space. You can see my hands moving down there. So I can tell we're going all the way to the bottom. The question becomes, do I need to go all the way to the right side to fish that up? Or is there some pathway to fish this up here? Since this is not a terribly long line, it might be enough to go up on that right side. But if I can find a way to come through here, that would be my strong preference. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to get a good visual of that, but I will try it out, see where I can achieve, and then show you what I did afterwards. Okay, so what I found is there is pretty much nothing behind this console. Even though it's closed in pretty well, there's nothing behind it. So I simply took the red line and have run it across, and we'll pull a lot of that slack up because you don't want any slack down here. But plus I think we're going to need every inch to get it up to here. So I've simply run it across to there. You can see it. And when I look down into, I don't know if you can see it on camera. Let's see. There, you can kind of see it. I can see straight down to where the wire is. So I need to get that up here. The angle is not such that I can stick my arm straight up high enough with one person to get it up to here. If I had 2 people, it'd be no problem. But with one person, so I'm just going to take a USB cable with a twisty tie on the end, and I'm going to drop it straight down, twisty tie the red line, and then pull it up. So I'll see if I can do this for you, the camera rolling, but may not be achievable. But I'm just gonna try this out and we'll see what happens here. Let's see, that may or may not work. Let's see. How about this? I will just simply place this right here and you'll get a decent idea of what I'm doing. I hope. Okay, so now you're gonna see me. I'm just going to fish this straight down. So what you can see, I just hung it right here, but I basically just fished my USB cable down. I'm coming out. I can see the cable right here. I'm gonna be careful not to pull on it because I don't want it to fall down from the top, obviously. So you might be able to see that. Just gonna take the twisty tie here. Take the end of this gently, so I don't want to tear this up. Just do it just like that. See, I got it twisty tied together. And then now we will fish it out carefully. And I hope it reaches. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. So in fact, what I will do is I will pull this out, just leave this hanging here until we're ready to do the radio install. But there you go. And I'll keep it tight here because I see there's some kind of lever that goes back and forth. I imagine that's part of the vent system. I don't want this getting hung up with that. So got it near the panel and dash, and I think we're good. Okay, now that we've got that OBD2 connected in on the Maestro, that would put us through step 3 here. Step 4, connect factory harness to the CHT harness. That's already done for us. Plug aftermarket radio harness into the aftermarket radio. We've already done that. Plug the data cable to the data port of the aftermarket radio. So when I look at this diagram, we started off with this is what you see here in step 5 is the connection into the radio. So that is this. Then you have all of these lines connected into the harness, which are all of these and connections there. You see green on green, white on white, red on white. So right here we have green on green, white on white, red on white. This was done for us. We did do the red on white ourselves. Then the white remains unplugged because the red now goes to white. So this white remains unplugged. The black here, which is the excess, that remains there unplugged because when we plug it into the car, we're going to take the OBD2 and plug that into there, which you see here in step 4. Okay, so that gets us to step 6. You'll see a steering wheel control cable that is listed as not required. So that's got a blue connector and a pin. That is this, so we're not going to use that any longer. You then have all these 4 connections, 2 on this side, 2 on this side coming into the box. We've already done all of those. I'm going to make sure that's in there tight. I'll refirm that up in just a moment. But yeah, effectively we've got those 4 connections. So that remains 2 connections, and that gets us to the instructions here in step 5 regarding the data cable. And so the data cable is the far edge of the Maestro that comes here, and that's going to go back to the radio in some way. So data cable would be this port, and you'll notice that is a 4 male pin connector. So that's this guy here, a 4 female pin connector, and then has a female on the back side. And so then there is also this other Tornado, which is an audio cable. And if we look at that, that is a 3-pin connector. That would be this other cable remaining, a 3-pin connector. So I'm going to plug both of those in on this section. And then those, it would appear, go to the radio. Okay, so I've got the audio plugged into the Maestro, and I've got the data cable here plugged into the Maestro. Those go into the radio, so I'm going to take the audio right there, which would go into the audio port of the back of the radio. So that is in. And then we've got the data, which is that guy going into the back of the radio. And if I look at the back of the radio, I see ADatalink right there. So we will plug the ADatalink in. Make sure that's in snug. All right. Okay, before we install the radio, there's a couple more things I need to address. And one of those is the radio has built-in Garmin. It also has wireless Apple CarPlay. But I'm not sure exactly how great wireless Apple CarPlay will actually work. So you do have the ability to have a wired CarPlay connection with your phone as well. So on the Travato or Ram Promaster on the vehicle, the standard harnesses that you find when you pull the old radio out, this is the USB connection into the radio, the factory radio, to this port here. So you currently would plug your phone into there, and that interconnects it to the radio. But as you can see, this is the old USB connector on the other end. And so if I look at my radio, this is the USB connection that is built into the radio. So I've either got to get I believe that's called a micro USB. I've either got to get a micro USB adapter, which I don't have right now. I'd have to go to the store, which I don't particularly feel like doing, assuming they even have one. Or the radio comes with this USB extension cable. So you would plug into here and then have this cable somewhere, either hanging out of your dashboard, or for a clean cut scenario, preferably here. So I've got to determine if I attempt to take and route and connect this into that, and then the other end up here to plug into the new radio, or not. So I kind of want it clean, so even though it's a lot more effort, I feel like that's the right thing to do. So I'm just going to take this cable, see how that is built, and have this end sticking out of there, this end coming into the back of the radio. The one other thing we also need to address before we install the radio into the deck is the radio comes with its own GPS connector for the navigation, and it explains that this should be mounted indoors but on the dash with a clear line of sight. So ideally this would be mounted somewhere, right up here. I am not exactly sure I want that up there outside, so we're going to first install the radio, and I'm just going to leave it under the dashboard, and we'll see if that works or not. So that's easy to address. Then the other item is the microphone that comes with the radio that is to be used for voice command on the radio. And this actually has to be mounted somewhere externally. So I'm going to have to figure out if I want that mounted on the steering wheel, perhaps in here. I'll figure out, and then where to run the cords. I'm not a fan of cords being visible, so I've got to figure all of that out. So anyway, things to address still: the USB connection for plugging the phone up, the audio mic to be installed, and the GPS, which at least initially we're going to do everything, save this for last, and just leave it connected, put the plastic faceplate back on top here, and see if that satisfies. Just basically rest it on top of the radio, see if that will work. I have heard of that working in the past, and if not, then we'll figure out what to do. But okay, so one thing at a time. Actually related to the USB port that's here from the factory, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and install the radio and just leave this hanging, and either through Amazon or my local Best Buy, Walmart, if I can find one, but probably Amazon. I'm just going to go ahead and order a USB 5-pin mini female to a USB-A type male. So it would be a B female to an A male adapter, and then try that out and just plug that into the back of the radio. It just keeps it cleaner. I don't want to have to take all this apart and then probably have to do some type of fabrication to get a new cable attached to the back of that, because it's a little box inside with a circuit board. And so I think that might be the easier approach, and if that doesn't work, then I'll pull the whole thing out somewhere down the road and swap it. But for right now, we'll do that, and I will supplement the video at a future date if that works, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mount the microphone that is for the voice activation of the radio, and I want it probably here or here, somewhere that's close, but also out of the way, and to where I don't see wires. I hate having wires hang. So what I'm gonna do is, this whole channel is all fed up to here. So let's say, for example, I decide to mount the microphone right here, or even on the steering column. This is all accessible because I need to fish the wire up into here. So what I'm gonna do is, if you see here, there's just enough gap to go ahead, I believe, and drop this. And you gotta remember, you got a larger, even though the wire's thin, you've got a plug there. So I am dropping that under the steering column and just feeding it through, and now you can see it's coming all through here. So you can see it going in there, coming through. So let's pull a lot of this slack through. And so I've got that right there, and now you can see I can just very easily pull this up here. So I can mount it there, or I could be slick and put it up here. That wouldn't be too unsightly, but I'll probably just do it there just to hide the cable right into the channel. I hate looking at that stuff. Let's keep it clean. So I'm gonna just hang that here for now, and then I will fish this through. Remember, this is just empty space behind this. So I'm gonna fish this through and up into the deck. Okay, so I did fish the little microphone. I mounted it. There's a little peel and stick strip on the bottom. So it's just basically stuck right there. The line is fished through. I routed it under here. Sent another cable down to pick it up again and pulled it up, and you've got it hanging right here next to the OBD2. So we'll plug that into the back of the, remember this is just, I use this to fish the cables up. We'll plug those into the back of the OBD2, and we should be set. Okay, I'm about ready to mount the radio into the dash, so I'm gonna go ahead and move these brackets, which were from the factory radio, and install the kit that comes with the new radio. Okay, and so on these brackets, the bracket basically is going to go in here. So it gets screwed in down here, and then the back just really kind of rests against the dash, I suppose, in the back end, which is kind of awkward. Now, the only problem is there's no clip to screw into here. It's just a piece of plastic, at least on my van. So what you're gonna do is use the original screws that these mounting brackets came off of, but you're gonna take these retaining clips and move one of them here and move one of them there. Okay, so as you can see, I couldn't do it with a camera in my hand, but I took the clip off of here and put it there. I left the one there. I left that one there and pulled the one off of here and placed it down here. Okay, so I've got the new brackets mounted on the sides in there using the old retaining clips and screws that came out of the metal brackets that used to be on the side. Now I am following the Metra. This is the mounting kit. So next step is to mount the plastic brackets to the side of the radio itself. Interestingly, it reads down, find it here, figure B, you're supposed to snap off the little plastic pin on the side of these brackets. So you'll see they have this that is, I mean, it's on there. Can't really break it off just by a finger, both sides. Kind of weird they would have them and then have us break them off, but anyway, I'm just gonna get a pair of pliers and see if I can't just snap them off. Okay, so what I did, you can see, came off. So all I did was just get a pair of pliers, grab it, and just twist until it popped off. Okay, so I just put the first bracket on the side to mount the radio into the dash. I don't know if you can see it, but they are labeled right and left, so I assume that is from the front right side and then the other on the left side, which would make sense because the clip needs to clip into the bracket, whereas if it was flipped around, obviously it wouldn't. So the instructions show a non-floating radio, and so the bracket is about on the edge of where the plastic is, which would be sticking out the front. In my case, I have a floating face that will go on here, so I'm not exactly sure where this bracket should go. It does, in the instructions, indicate that this must be flat. You can't have a screw protruding out. So I made sure I went down deep enough. I put the bracket as far forward as possible though, because there'll be a screen mounted on the front here, so this is going to stick out sufficiently. So I kind of want this to go back into the dash as much as possible. So I've got this. There were four, don't pay attention to these. These are not screws for these, or not holes for these screws. The holes for these screws look like that, they're recessed. So I used the four recessed holes that I had access to and did it as far forward as this one would allow. So now we'll do the other side. Okay, so I think we are to the point where we are ready to put the radio in, at least for testing purposes. And you know, we've got the OBD2 connection, we've got the microphone connection, we've got the harness to harness. We have up here the USB right here, which connects to there. That I will do after the fact, as I'm awaiting an adapter for that. Here we've got two connections, and I truly and honestly cannot find reference to which is which. So one is going to be the radio antenna, and the other should be the GPS or satellite radio antenna, and have really truly no idea which is which. So I know the radio antenna connector on the car deck does have purple on it also, and it's that type of connection, but I can't find reference to the original which is which. So we'll just try it out and figure it out as we go along. All right, we do also have a SiriusXM satellite radio tuner, and the deck is satellite ready, but it does not have a satellite tuner inside of it. They milk and dime you for every little extra piece they possibly can, it would seem. So anyway, the connection is right there on the back of the radio. And as you'll see here is basically the tuner itself, which has that connection that goes in the back of the radio. So we'll plug that in. Then it has an entry port here for the antenna. Now this particular kit comes with a super fancy, very nice antenna. At some point I will need to mount that if I can't reutilize the one that's already there, and you'll see there's the connection that comes back into the tuner. So for now, I'm gonna plug the tuner in, see if I can reutilize the existing satellite antenna that's already somewhere on the roof of the RV. And if that does not work for me, then eventually we'll install this. Okay, so we're gonna plug this puppy up. We've got the main unit here, we've got the cabling there, and I'm gonna see if I can't. It's gonna be hard to do this with one hand, so let's try though. All right, so I'm going to look here and see here. The brackets on each side. It's gonna need to go this way. So we will. Okay, so I have crammed all the wires down in here. I connected the audio mic, which we installed, so that was in the back right corner. I recall the OBD2 connection, which was the yellow and red wire twisted that we ran up here. I connected that into the harness at its proper location. I have the satellite receiver with no antenna connection as of yet, just kind of laying out here. I connected the GPS and have it just laying off to the side also, because remember, at first I'm going to seek to try and just have it lay on top of the radio, and hopefully it works through the plastic. This is the antenna wire from the radio deck that I'm going to connect to either the white or the yellow here. I'm not sure which it is. I've got to try whichever one. And then remember, this is the USB. So we connected the remaining connections. Intentionally don't have these three connected, and we're gonna give this a try. And I'm gonna put the face on so we can see what's going on before I pop it all the way in, and then give this a whirl and see if we're on the right track. Okay, I've got the deck mounted in. Cabling still at the top. I have found that the on the harness you had a white input and a yellow input off of the original radio deck. The white, which is, you can't see right now, there it is right there. The white input is the radio antenna, whereas the yellow input is the satellite radio. So I'm going to seek to get a adapter for the satellite radio. Apparently iDatalink sells one. I didn't realize that when I ordered. And try that before I seek to install a net new antenna on the SiriusXM tuner. So alright, so one other issue I found installing this Kenwood into the factory harness using the Maestro and the new wiring cable you see is that the Kenwood has a SiriusXM vehicle tuner that I added separately. The deck is XM Sirius satellite ready, but it does not have a tuner built inside of it, so you do have to buy this separate. So you'll notice here is the antenna connector for the SiriusXM. Here is the factory harness for the satellite radio antenna that's already on the roof. Now, the tuner came with its own antenna, but if I don't have to rerun another, I certainly don't want to. So I bought this adapter that I believe will connect the two. Again, $7-8 off of Amazon. There's the model, whatever. So let's give this a try. So here is the adapter. I'm going to plug this in there. Clips in perfectly. And then the other end into the receiver. Yes. All right, at least the connections work. Now let's see if the antenna actually works. So we've got the deck in here. Just a little tip, if you ever install this Kenwood and it does not work, the reason is if this little piece of plastic is not positioned behind this deck, radio will not turn on. So what I'm gonna do is turn the car off and put this on and we'll give it a try. So I've popped this little piece of plastic bracket in. I'm not gonna put screws in because I haven't fully got this all installed yet, but put the plastic on, just like that, boom, radio turns on. Without that piece of plastic, your Kenwood does not run, by the way. So, all right, we just plugged in the satellite radio antenna and we just plugged in the USB. So first thing, all right, so I just plugged in the satellite radio to the antenna on top of the roof and created this USB adapter, connect the factory USB harness to the Kenwood default harness. It's just a gender changer. So let's see if this works. There we go. So this right here, this adapter, totally works. All right, now let's test the USB connector.
Get the SiriusXM app and listen on your phone when you get out of the car. Anywhere you take your phone, you can take Howard Stern, NFL Radio, and commercial-free music channels from nearly every genre. You never have to miss your favorite SiriusXM programs or commercial-free music. Find the SiriusXM app in the App Store or call 844-711-8800.
All right, so I'm just taking an iPhone cable. It's USB plugged in, and I'm going to plug it into the phone I'm using to. And I'm going to plug this in the phone if I get a battery signal. Get your bands, something popped up there. Alright, so I did not want to mess with this. And I got this gender changer adapter to connect the factory USB port to the Kenwood USB port. And effectively, the adapter looks like this. So it's a mini USB female to a Type A male in the middle, and you don't have to rewire anything. You just connect right up to what is already in the dash. Easy peasy. Nice. We are in business. Love this thing. Got the gauges. Vehicle info, get your tire pressures, battery voltage, your tripometers, AB, current. Love it. CarPlay built in. And by the way, even though I'm corded now because I wanted to test the USB for charging purposes, the CarPlay is wireless. So I drove last night, GPS, made phone calls, everything, with no necessary cord on my phone. This is great. Okay, as for the satellite or navigation GPS, that's part of the Kenwood, I have peeled the sticky off the back and I've just stuck it right on top of the Maestro. This might shake a little, but it's not where it's positioned, it's not going anywhere. So this would be tucked down maybe, but essentially we will keep that right there. I tried it last night with the dash plate cover on top, which is right here. And GPS worked fine. So I will now tilt this down. I do need to put the 2 screws in to screw this down so it doesn't rattle, but otherwise I think we are all set.